Our next story is from West Africa. It's about America's failed policy in Niger. Niger is a country of about 25 million people. It is located in West Africa in the so-called Coup belt. Niger experienced a coup last July. The military ousted and imprisoned President Mohamed Bazoum. A junta has ruled the country since. They say they took over for two reasons. One, to better fight a terrorist insurgency in the region, and two, to remove French troops from their country. You see, France was Niger's former colonial overlord. It was very unpopular in the country, so when the junta took power, the French were forced to leave. But France was not the only foreign power in the country. There was also an EU and American force based in Niger. They were there to fight terrorists as well. When the junta took over, the Europeans packed up, but the Americans stayed. They moved out of Niger's capital, Niamey, but about 1,000 American troops are stationed at a base near the city of Agadez. It's called Air Base 201. The base houses a fleet of MQ-9 Reaper drones. It was built about 6 years ago at a cost of about $110 million. This base was used for anti-terror operations, which have stopped since the coup in July, but the American troops have stuck around, sometimes engaging in self-defense operations, but mostly they've been on standby. But now it seems that the American soldiers will have to pack up.
The government of Niger, taking into account the aspirations and interests of its people, resolves in all responsibility to denounce with immediate effect the agreement relating to the status of United States military personnel and civilian employees of the U.S. Department of Defense on the territory of the Republic of Niger.
Yes, Niger's junta wants the Americans out. It seems that Washington's plans in the region are in a shambles, and it's completely their fault, maybe add. It could have still worked out for the U.S. had they refrained from their old habits, condescension and threats.
The government of Niger therefore strongly denounces the condescending attitude combined with the threat of reprisals by the head of the American delegation against the government and the people of Niger.
Last week, an American delegation went to Niger. It included Assistant Secretary of State Molly Fee, Assistant Secretary of Defense Celeste Wallander, and the U.S. Africa Command's General Michael Langley. This high-level delegation sat down with the Niger junta and proceeded to chastise them. It's no secret that Niger has swapped France for Russia. Russia's Wagner mercenary group joined Niger's fight against terror. This was just weeks after the French were asked to leave. Last December, Niger's junta-appointed prime minister was also in Moscow. They were talking about expanding ties, which is natural given the situation. But it's not just the Russian ties that have irked the U.S. Niger's prime minister has visited Iran as well. He was there in January. And that was perhaps the last straw for the Americans. The U.S. delegation confronted Niger last week. They accused the junta of trying to sell uranium to Tehran. You heard that right. The U.S. says they're planning to help Iran develop nuclear weapons. Niger's junta has slammed this accusation.
The government of Niger rejects the misleading allegations made by the head of the American delegation, who maintains that it had signed a secret uranium agreement with the Islamic Republic of Iran. This cynical approach, usually used to discredit, demonize, and justify their threats against states, is reminiscent of the Second Iraq War.
And that seems to have been the final straw. That's when Niger said that they want the U.S. military out. It's not final yet. The U.S. is now scrambling to undo the damage and to keep a hold of its $100 million base. But it shows just how tactless the Americans can be. They could have just laid low and gone about their business. But no, they thought it was smart to bully a smaller country. And this time, it has backfired spectacularly.